Chris. Hope you're doing well, and welcome to Popcorn Finance, the show where we discuss finance and about the time it takes to make a bag of popcorn. With everything going on in the world right now, there have been a lot of people who have had to dip into that savings they had set aside for an emergency. And the thing is, even though we put this money aside for the purpose of handling a situation where our income has been hidden and it's not what it used to be, we still feel guilty taking that money out of the account. I don't know what it is. I don't know why we feel this way, but we just do. And I've been there before where I've had to dip into my savings, and even though I was happy that it was there, I felt horrible that I was pulling that money out of the account. And the thing is, we shouldn't feel that way. We should feel great that we've put this money aside and that we are prepared for some of these emergencies that we find ourselves facing. So today I wanted to visit a conversation that I had with Pedro Moura of Flourish Savings, where we talk about this very issue. But before we get into that conversation, I wanted to let you all know, if you didn't know already, I host another podcast called This Is Awkward with my co-host Allison, and we just crossed the 6-month mark not that long ago, and we'd love to have you come join us. This show is all about taking listener calls and helping them through the awkward money situations that they find themselves in. I know we've all been there. We've all had these awkward money situations where people borrow money and never pay us back, or we have a friend who's a horrible tipper. We all deal with these things, and so we've been having a lot of fun over there going through these different calls that we receive. And here's a quick example of one of those calls.
I started a new job and the office has a department of 25 people. My first week there, someone had a family emergency and they collected money to donate a gift or send flowers. I was so new, I didn't donate. A few weeks later, someone retired and another collection went around. I donated $10 to seem like a team player. A week later, they're collecting again. Someone is having a baby. I'm all for giving gifts and I'm really excited for their new life events. And while $5 here and there isn't a huge deal and it's not going to break my budget, it's definitely not my favorite way to spend money. What do I do here?
So if you're interested in learning from us dealing with these awkward money situations, or you have a situation that you want us to help you through, come take a listen to This Is Awkward. You can listen to it where you're listening to Popcorn Finance right now, or just open up your favorite podcast app and search for This Is Awkward. Now let's jump into my conversation with Pedro. It is a lot of work to save, right? I mean, it's a lot of intentional effort to get to this point. We know there's emergencies that are going to pop up. There's going to be things that come up that you don't expect, but for some reason it still feels like you've done something wrong, and the fact they have to take it out, or maybe it just feels like you've erased all this progress. And we had a conversation before we got into all of this, and you brought up a great point that it's not so much that you've failed and all of a sudden you have this thing that's going to derail you. It's more so you should celebrate the fact that you were prepared and that you had this money sitting there. Maybe you're having to use it for a purpose you didn't intend on, or it's just something that was just completely unexpected. But the fact is, you were prepared and you didn't have to, say, go into debt in order to cover that expense. And it's something you should celebrate rather than beat yourself up about, right?
That's right. I think celebrating the small milestones go a very long way. And I think even getting started can be really intimidating, right? So there's a couple of reasons why you feel guilty along the process. At least for myself, it's like, all right, it was hard to get started. And it's like, I needed to look at my flows and like how much money is coming in, how much is coming out, how much do I have to put it aside? And then now I need to drain it. And that can be defeating. But if you've seen the process differently and you're being perhaps rewarded or celebrated as you making progress along the way, in the moment that you had to take it out, you also being celebrated that you didn't have to swipe the credit card. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, no, true. Because not only did you not have to use a credit card, which you've probably been trying to avoid using all this time, you don't have to worry about paying interest, which you're almost saving yourself money there by the fact that you were able to pull out cash, cover this expense, and not have these other impacts down the road by maybe having to have this sit on a credit card for several months before you can pay it off.
That's right. And I think, I know we talked a little bit about this before the show. It's this idea of like credit cards do a really good job of rewarding every time you swipe, every time you do an action. And this like idea of immediate gratification is really present when you're purchasing. So how can you build a little bit of that of like with savings that you're like maybe foregoing something to do it later? But how do you reward yourself along the way? Or even thinking from accountability factor that I'm able to start small. I'm able to reward myself for the small steps I take. And as I make progress, it's not all about the final number in the account.
So I know for me personally, I get fixated on, I need to have this much in my savings account. And if I'm not there, I don't feel like I've accomplished anything. But really, it's the process of being prepared and building the habits of saving and then just putting yourself in a better situation, because things aren't always going to be perfect and be exactly how you want them to be. But if you build up these habits, even if you haven't hit your goal yet, or maybe even if you have to take some money out and get yourself a little bit farther away from that goal, you're building these habits, which I think in the long run will pay off. And emergencies don't come up all the time. It's not going to happen every time and derail you, but staying consistent and keeping going on that goal and that keeping that momentum going forward, I think in the long run really does benefit you, and something that I think will just be great for you in the long run when it comes to having something there to prepare yourself for an emergency.
That's right. And we only think about, like, if I'm not going to achieve that goal that I have in mind, I'm not going to start. And I think that's a mistake. Like, something that happened to me, and quickly I'll go through it. I had a car accident. I had to activate my insurance. If I didn't have any sort of savings, I wouldn't be able to be negotiating with the insurance to pay fully what my car broke down, because I would be nervous without option. I needed my car to get to work, and I would pay me whatever it is so I can get that and get going. And having a little bit of savings give you that optionality. So I think I'm a believer that even as you're paying off student loans, doing other things, you should be saving a certain amount of money so it doesn't force you to spiral back in debt when a little emergency comes up.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Thanks again to Pedro Moura from Flourish Savings for joining me. And if you have any questions, or if there's a specific topic that you want me to cover here on the show, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. Look for Popcorn Finance Podcast, or you can search for Popcorn Finance on Twitter and Facebook. Or if you're not in any of those social media platforms, send me an email, questions@popcornfinance.com. I'd love to hear from you and figure out if there's any topics that I haven't covered that you're interested in me talking about on the show. As always, I appreciate you joining me here for another bag of popcorn. Hope you all have an amazing rest of your week. And remember, if you haven't already, register to vote.
Your boy keep it poppin' like Mary Poppins.